Singapore is building farms right in the heart of the city. Vegetables are grown inside multi-story buildings. Mushrooms thrive in rooms without sunlight. Marine fish are raised in floating facilities, and eggs move along conveyor belts like products on an industrial production line. With more than 90% of its food imported, this tiny island nation has little room to expand its farmland. Instead, Singapore is investing in agriculture as a line of national defense, protecting its food supply when crises strike. So how has Singapore managed to do it? Join Terran Works as we explore the answer in today's video. The world knows Singapore as a global financial and maritime powerhouse, a place where vast flows of capital and tens of millions of shipping containers pass through every year. But behind its glass skyscrapers and bustling ports, this island nation, with almost no agricultural land, is quietly building an entirely different industry. Food production powered by AI, robotics, and farms that do not require traditional fields. Because land is extremely limited, Singapore does not grow rice or raise large livestock on a significant scale. Instead, the country focuses on leafy vegetables, mushrooms, eggs, marine fish, and other foods that deliver high nutritional value per square meter. Warehouses are being transformed into vertical farms, rooftops are combined with solar power systems, and recirculating technologies allow water to be reused almost continuously. In Singapore, where every square meter of land comes at a premium, agriculture no longer spreads outward across open fields. It grows upward. Inside enclosed warehouses, thousands of growing trays are stacked like a library of plants, while their roots never touch soil, instead absorbing water and nutrients from a precisely controlled recirculating system. The process begins with carefully selected seeds that are disinfected and sown into trays filled with clean growing media. After germination, the young plants are transferred to multi-tier growing racks, where nutrient-rich solution continuously flows through the root zone. LED lights act as an artificial sun, providing the right intensity and duration of light for each stage of growth. Sensors continuously monitor temperature, humidity, pH levels, and mineral concentrations. Whenever conditions change, automated systems adjust water, nutrients, ventilation, and cooling. Excess water is collected, filtered, disinfected, and pumped back into the system, helping reduce waste while maintaining stable growing conditions throughout the year. As the crops develop, workers inspect leaf color, root health, and any signs of pests or disease. Once the vegetables reach the required size, they are harvested, cleaned, and packaged directly at the farm before being delivered to retail outlets the same day. This model is especially well-suited to microgreens, lettuce, kale, spinach, basil, coriander, and many other herbs with short growing cycles. In a country with very little open land, Singapore is installing solar power, almost like adding new energy-generating skin to the city. Solar panels now appear on the rooftops of apartment blocks, factories, parking structures, and even across reservoirs, transforming spaces that once simply absorbed sunlight into vast sources of electricity. This power is not only fed into the national grid, it also provides an important foundation for high-tech agriculture. Inside urban farms, solar energy can run hydroponic pumps, ventilation systems, sensors, LED lighting, and cooling equipment. As a result, vegetables such as lettuce, kale, spinach, and coriander can continue growing inside warehouses, while crops such as cherry tomatoes, strawberries, and bell peppers are cultivated under tightly controlled conditions. Fish are raised in recirculating tanks, while production environments can be kept stable almost continuously. At some pilot sites, solar panels are even installed directly above vegetable growing structures, generating electricity while also providing partial protection from intense tropical sunlight and heavy rain. But Singapore's ambition goes much further. Not every solar panel needs crops beneath it. Instead, clean energy can help power the entire urban food production system. Singapore is not only developing smart aquaculture systems, it is also actively designing future generations of farmed fish at the genetic level. At the center of this effort is Asian sea bass, or barramundi. one of the country's strategic aquaculture species. At the Marine Aquaculture Center on St. John's Island, scientists collect samples from broodstock and analyze genetic data to identify important traits such as growth rate, disease resistance, and nutritional quality. Fish with the most desirable genetic combinations are selected as broodstock and bred under controlled conditions. Their offspring are then monitored for growth, survival, and overall health, allowing researchers to continue selecting the strongest individuals. Over successive generations, this process can produce higher quality fish strains without genetically modifying them. Singapore is also applying genetic tools to research Asian sea bass and red snapper, with a focus on faster growth and stronger disease resistance. The SGD 18.5 million Aquapolis program is working to develop barramundi strains with improved resilience, lower mortality rates, and better adaptation to high-density farming conditions. Elite broodstock are maintained at the National Broodstock Center, while their eggs are transferred to hatcheries for rearing before juvenile fish are supplied to commercial farms. In this way, Singapore is building greater control over the entire seafood production chain, from genetics to the dinner table. In the narrow waters surrounding one of the world's busiest shipping ports, Singapore still raises red snapper, like moving rubies beneath the surface. Instead of releasing fish into the open sea and leaving them entirely to the tides, farmers keep them in sturdy offshore cages, positioned where water circulation is strong. Multiple layers of netting act like a soft fortress, helping protect the stock from predators and seabirds. In addition, some fish are also raised in indoor tanks at centralized aquaculture facilities. At modern farms, red snapper are raised alongside Asian sea bass, hybrid grouper, and other tropical marine species. Beneath the water, remotely operated equipment works like robotic divers, continuously inspecting nets and monitoring fish behavior. Automated net cleaning machines remove algae, barnacles, and other marine growth, helping maintain steady water flow, while solar panels provide part of the energy needed to operate the farm. Singapore has also included red snapper in selective breeding research programs aimed at securing a reliable supply of healthy broodstock, eggs, and juvenile fish. Individuals with strong growth performance, stable health, and high adaptability are selected for controlled breeding. From an egg no larger than a speck of dust to schools of red-colored fish beneath the sea, Singapore is turning aquaculture into a precision production system, where water flow, every layer of netting, and each new generation of fish can be managed through science. Singapore may not have vast open pastures, but it still maintains a dairy goat farm in the middle of the city-state. At Hay Dairies, the country's only goat farm, more than 800 crossbred goats, originally descended from stock in Minnesota, are raised in enclosed barns rather than grazing freely outdoors. To cope with Singapore's hot and humid climate, the goats are kept on raised flooring, separating them from the ground to reduce exposure to parasites and disease. Their main feed is protein-rich alfalfa hay imported from the United States, supplemented with mineral blocks. Drinking water is supplied through automatic nipples to prevent contamination from feed or waste, while their hooves are trimmed regularly to maintain healthy movement. Each morning, goats that are currently producing milk are brought into the milking area one by one. Milking equipment transfers the milk through a closed system, minimizing contact with workers and the outside environment. The process takes place every day from early morning until around 10:30 a.m., with each goat producing an average of about 3 liters of milk per day. Immediately after collection, the milk is pasteurized, homogenized, and bottled before being distributed directly to consumers. Rather than trying to recreate a traditional pasture, Singapore has transformed enclosed barns, imported feed, and a tightly controlled processing line into a dairy production system designed for every square meter of scarce land. In a city with almost no forests, Singapore is still creating its own mushroom forests inside enclosed warehouses. Here, lion's mane, pink oyster, golden oyster, chestnut, and shiitake mushrooms do not grow from forest soil. Instead, they thrive on carefully prepared substrate bags, mixed almost like a laboratory formula. Mushroom mycelium is inoculated into a sterilized substrate made from sawdust and plant-based agricultural byproducts. The bags are then stacked in multiple layers inside dark incubation rooms, where white strands of mycelium gradually spread through the material like an underground network of roots. Once the mycelium has fully colonized the substrate, the bags are moved into fruiting rooms. Misting systems, ventilation, and climate control equipment continuously regulate temperature, humidity, and carbon dioxide levels. After a relatively short growing cycle, clusters of mushrooms begin emerging almost at once, resembling tiny umbrellas rising through the mist. The mushrooms are cut close to the base, sorted, packaged on site, and then delivered to restaurants and supermarkets. The spent substrate can be shredded and composted into organic fertilizer, helping close the loop in the production cycle. In Singapore's modern poultry farms, an egg can travel from the moment it is laid to the moment it sits neatly in a tray with almost no human contact. Millions of laying hens are housed in multi-tier systems where temperature, humidity, and ventilation are carefully controlled. Sensors operate continuously like invisible managers, monitoring living conditions around the clock and issuing alerts whenever abnormalities are detected. Feed is delivered automatically to each level of the housing system. Some farms also add probiotics to the diet to support digestion, strengthen resistance to disease, and reduce odor. The moment an egg rolls out of the nesting area, a conveyor belt carries it toward the processing center, turning the entire farm into a constantly moving river of eggs. There, the eggs are cleaned, disinfected with ultraviolet light, and inspected through candling systems to detect tiny cracks that may be difficult to see with the naked eye. Automated equipment then sorts them by weight, removes those that fail quality standards, and packs tens of thousands of eggs into trays every hour. Even chicken manure is not wasted. It is collected by a separate conveyor system, transported to a drying area, and processed into organic fertilizer. In this way, Singapore is not only producing eggs on limited land, it is turning every level of the poultry house into a clean, closed-loop food production line with minimal waste. Unlike fish raised for food, koi in Singapore are cared for as living works of art and are increasingly produced for the export market. Each fish carries an almost unique pattern: porcelain white skin, red markings like brush strokes, and black patches that give every individual its own visual identity and value. After arriving at the farm, the koi first go through a quarantine period so their health can be closely monitored. Water in each tank is continuously filtered and recirculated, supplied with oxygen, and kept within a controlled temperature range to maintain stable conditions. The fish are then graded according to variety, size, body shape, skin quality, color intensity, and the balance of their patterns. Exceptional individuals are transferred to separate tanks, where feeding programs are adjusted to further improve their coloration and body development. Before export, the koi must pass through a strict health gate. They are examined for signs of disease, especially dangerous viruses that can spread among carp species. Each shipment must meet the quarantine requirements of the destination market. The fish are then placed in bags filled with clean water, supplied with oxygen, packed inside insulated boxes, and transported by air. From quiet farm ponds, Singapore's koi leave the country like paintings that can swim. Singapore may not have endless fields, but it is proving that the future of agriculture is not defined by land area alone. It depends on how intelligently every square meter is used. From vegetables grown with solar-powered systems and mushrooms cultivated in enclosed rooms, to fish selectively bred with advanced technology and eggs moving along automated production lines, everything operates like a precision machine. For Singapore, agriculture is no longer an industry pushed to the outskirts of the city. It has become a line of defense, protecting the nation's food security. And perhaps, this small island nation is showing the world how the cities of the future could feed themselves. Norway is a wealthy, modern country with a very high level of technological development, but paradoxically, the amount of land available for agriculture is extremely limited. According to the OECD, agricultural land accounts for only about 3% of Norway's mainland area. The rest is dominated by mountains, boreal forests, snow and ice, and regions with very short growing seasons. As a result, Norway is almost unable to develop large-scale agriculture in the form of vast fields like those in the United States and Brazil, or dense greenhouse systems like those in the Netherlands. Instead of trying to transform rocky mountains and wilderness into extensive farmland, Norwegians learned how to make use of the challenging landscape itself. In 2025 alone, Norway exported 2.8 million tons of seafood, enough to provide approximately 38 million meals every day around the world. For a country with very little arable land, this is how Norway expanded agriculture beyond the mainland, by turning the cold waters of the North Atlantic into its primary production zone, where Atlantic salmon has become a key economic pillar of this Arctic nation. Amid Norway's deep and icy fjords, Atlantic salmon has become a symbol of a modern marine industry. Norway is currently one of the world's largest producers and exporters of salmon. In 2024 alone, the country exported more than 1.25 million tons of salmon, worth approximately USD 10.8 billion, with the United States being one of its key export markets. The salmon farming process typically begins in hatcheries located on land. Here, fish eggs are incubated in tanks where temperature, oxygen levels, and water quality are carefully controlled. Once the young fish develop into smolt and are able to adapt to saltwater environments, they are transported by specialized vessels to offshore sea cages. This growth phase usually lasts around 2 years, until the fish reach a market weight of approximately 5 to 6 kilograms. What makes Norway's salmon industry unique is the combination of natural conditions and modern technology. Many fish farms use automated feeding systems, underwater cameras, sensors, and artificial intelligence to continuously monitor the fish. This allows farmers to control feed consumption, observe swimming behavior, track fish health, and monitor water conditions, enabling timely adjustments to reduce waste and improve survival rates. Once the salmon reach market size, they are harvested using specialized vessels, then cleaned, graded, quality inspected, and transferred into the cold chain. From coastal processing facilities, Norwegian salmon is further packaged and exported to international markets around the world. It is this combination of cold ocean waters, biotechnology, and advanced monitoring technology that has made Norwegian salmon one of the highest value seafood products in the world. Norway currently has approximately 250,000 semi-domesticated reindeer raised under free-ranging grazing systems, with more than 185,000 of them concentrated in Finnmark, the northernmost region of the country. What makes reindeer especially significant is that they not only provide meat, hides, and antlers, but also play an important role in the lives of the Sami people, the indigenous community that has maintained a close relationship with reindeer for generations. Unlike conventional fixed farm operations, reindeer husbandry in Norway follows a semi-nomadic system. The herds are moved seasonally between summer grazing grounds and winter feeding areas. During the colder months, the animals are able to dig through snow to find lichens and other low-growing vegetation beneath the surface. Today, alongside generations of traditional knowledge, reindeer herders are increasingly using technology to manage their herds more efficiently. Camera-equipped drones help monitor the animals from above, while GPS devices attached to selected representative individuals are used to track migration routes, map grazing areas, and provide early warnings when herds move outside designated safe zones. Some operations are also experimenting with electronic ear tags, weighing systems, and sorting equipment to record data on the weight, condition, and health of individual animals. When the harvest season arrives, reindeer that meet the required standards for age, condition, and weight are separated from the herd in a controlled process and then transported to processing facilities that comply with European standards for hygiene and animal welfare. The meat is subsequently graded, refrigerated, and distributed to the market, supplying more than 2,000 tons annually to Nordic markets and for export around the world. Apples from the Hardanger region are considered one of the most distinctive prides of Norwegian agriculture. Located near 60 degrees north latitude, Hardanger is unlike the fruit-growing regions typically associated with long periods of heat and sunshine. Instead, it is a fruit orchard by the fjords, where rows of apple trees cling to steep hillsides overlooking the cold blue waters of the fjords, with snow-capped mountains and traditional Nordic wooden houses forming the backdrop. Because of its high latitude, apple trees in Hardanger have a shorter growing season than those in many other fruit-producing regions. However, summers here are characterized by exceptionally long days, sometimes providing up to 18 hours of daylight, allowing the trees to absorb energy continuously in a cool climate. This unique combination causes the apples to ripen more slowly, gradually accumulating sugars, acids, and aromas, resulting in a balanced sweet and tart flavor, a distinct fragrance, and consistent quality. In addition, the long and cold winters help naturally suppress many pests, insects, and plant diseases. This is one reason why agricultural products from the region are often highly regarded for their cleanliness, safety, and natural flavor. Today, Hardanger apples and cider are regarded as one of the most distinctive prides of Norwegian agriculture. When the apples are pressed for juice and fermented, they produce a cider with a remarkably refined character. Crisp, refreshing, and complex, yet not overly sweet. It is this balance of acidity, sweetness, and the natural aromas of apples grown along the fjords that has made Hardanger cider a standout product in Norway's culinary culture and tourism industry. In Norway, sheep are not raised only on conventional farms. Every summer, as the snow begins to melt, more than 2 million sheep are released from their barns and moved to natural grazing areas. They roam through forests, mountain slopes, and highland pastures for several months. What makes this system particularly unique is that as the sheep continue climbing to higher elevations, the snow there is also melting, constantly providing fresh new grass. Thanks to this nutrient-rich forage, the sheep grow healthily and develop thicker, higher-quality wool. What makes this model especially impressive is that Norway does not manage its sheep flocks through traditional herding methods involving shepherds and working dogs. More than 80% of the sheep are allowed to roam freely across vast areas. To monitor them, Norwegian farmers are increasingly using GPS collars, no-fence virtual fencing systems, and even drones. These technologies help track the location of the flocks, issue alerts when animals stray too far, and create digital boundaries without the need for physical fences. The value of Norway's sheep lies not only in their meat, but also in their thick wool, which helps them adapt to the country's harsh climate. This natural fleece is water-resistant, highly insulating, and capable of protecting the animals during severe winters, even when temperatures drop to extremely low levels. After the grazing season ends, the sheep are brought back to the farms for health inspections, sorting, and shearing. During this process, shearers use high-speed electric shearing machines equipped with sharp metal blades, operating much like large industrial clippers. In just a few minutes, the thick fleece is removed in large sections, then collected, graded, and transported to processing facilities, where it becomes a raw material for the textile industry. Because of its long winters and limited cropland, Norway has made extensive use of grasslands, valleys, and mountainous regions to develop its dairy industry. What is particularly noteworthy is that although the number of dairy cows has declined significantly, from nearly 400,000 head in 1980 to around 200,000 in 2024, annual milk production has remained at approximately 1.5 billion liters. This achievement is the result of higher productivity, improved cattle breeds, more efficient feeding systems, and increasingly advanced farm technology. During the summer, dairy cows are grazed on pastures to take advantage of natural forage. However, when winter arrives, They are brought into enclosed barns and fed hay, silage, and feed reserves stored from the summer months. Many dairy farms in Norway now utilize automatic milking robots, health monitoring sensors, and data management systems to optimize the productivity of each individual cow. From this milk, Norway produces a variety of well-known dairy products, including fresh milk, butter, yogurt, the cheeses Jarlsberg and Norvegia, and especially Brunost, a distinctive brown cheese with a sweet, rich flavor and caramel-like color that is considered one of Norway's most iconic culinary specialties. Another important factor behind the strength of Norway's dairy industry is the Norwegian red breed. This breed has been selectively developed not only for high milk production, but also for strong health, high fertility, long lifespan, and excellent adaptation to cold climates. Thanks to this genetic foundation, Norway has become one of the countries with the lowest levels of antibiotic use in livestock farming in the world, helping to produce milk that is cleaner, safer, and more sustainable for consumers. Today, the genetic resources of Norwegian dairy cattle are exported to more than 30 countries, where they are crossbred with local cattle breeds. This contributes to improving both the health and milk productivity of dairy herds around the world. In 2025, Norway produced approximately 386,200 tons of potatoes. Most of this production is intended for the domestic market. The growing season typically begins around May, when the snow has melted and the soil has warmed enough for machinery to enter the fields. Instead of planting by hand, farmers use specialized potato planters. These machines move along prepared rows, placing seed potatoes in evenly spaced lines, while simultaneously forming raised ridges of soil. This method improves soil aeration, enhances drainage, and provides sufficient space for the tubers to develop underground. Throughout the short Nordic summer, potato plants take advantage of the exceptionally long daylight hours to grow rapidly. Although the cultivation period is relatively brief, the near-continuous summer sunlight allows the plants to photosynthesize intensively, accumulating sugars and starches in the tubers. This contributes to the distinctive characteristics of potatoes grown in cold climates: a rich, slightly sweet flavor and a firm, dense texture. When the harvest season arrives, potato harvesters begin moving along the rows. A digging blade at the front lifts the entire layer of soil beneath the plants, feeding potatoes, roots, dried foliage, and soil into a vibrating conveyor system. At this stage, the entire field resembles an outdoor production line. Tractors, harvesters, conveyor systems, and transport vehicles work together to bring thousands of potatoes out of the ground as quickly as possible before the return of cold weather and wet autumn conditions. After leaving the field, the potatoes are transported to cleaning, sorting, and storage facilities. Potatoes that meet quality standards are sold to the market, while others are sent to processing plants to be turned into French fries, frozen foods, or starch-based products. On a land with limited arable area, short growing seasons, and a harsh landscape shaped by rocky mountains, snow, ice, and deep fjords, Norway has found ways to turn natural challenges into advantages for development. By combining modern technology with its abundant marine resources, the country has built an agricultural system with a distinctive identity. Together, these achievements demonstrate how effectively Norway has utilized conditions that might otherwise seem unfavorable.